We're here today to talk about the Center's investigation of the White House visitor logs, which were finally released in September 2009. I understand the logs are incomplete. What are some of the big gaps in the data?
Well, for starters, the first almost 9 months of the administration are largely missing. There were about 500,000 visitors between January 20th of 2009 and September 15th of 2009, but so far only about 1% of those have been released. There's some people that many people know were at the White House who do not appear in the logs. For instance, anybody that watched Bob Dylan's performance on the Concert for Civil Rights saw that he indeed performed The Times Are A-Changin' at the White House, and yet his name doesn't appear in the White House logs at all.
Can you describe the use of junior aides to get visitors into the White House?
Yeah, that's probably one of the most frustrating things in trying to make sense out of these logs. There are thousands of visits that are in the names of junior staffers when it would appear that some very heavyweight people had come in and seen those junior staffers. And what the White House explained to us was that the person who arranges the visit is often listed as the visitee in the logs, and therefore the junior staffer's name appears thousands of times when in fact the visitor was seeing somebody more senior.
Why is it important to fill the gaps in the database?
Well, I think it's important because, particularly in the early months of the administration, there was a huge flurry of activity on very important policies, the health care reform, the stimulus bill, for example, and anybody wanting to know who played a role in making those decisions might want to look and see who was coming to the White House and who they were seeing, but in fact you're not able to do that because of this large gap.
Why won't the White House release the first 9 months of data?
They didn't have a system for understanding that some people had security clearances and releasing their information could be a security risk. After they were sued by two parties that said these ought to be available to the public, they decided to start keeping a record of that, and they are not disclosing any of those files. So they're saying now that to go back and to try to find out through all of these 500,000 people who they could release would be very labor intensive, and they simply refuse to do it.